I'm joined in the studio by Professor Arnold Dix, a fire safety expert and lawyer, comes from Australia originally, who looked into the Lakanal House tragedy in 2009. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I'm imagining that when you investigated that in 2009, you hoped that you were never going to see anything of that like again in this country, and that you hoped that the findings and whatever it was you discovered would mean it wouldn't happen again.
Well, it was more than hope. I just had so much faith in the system that the lessons learned then would be learned and put in place.
Can you talk us through the lessons that were learned in 2009, or that you hoped were learned at any rate?
Well, I really have to look to the findings of the coroner, and she was very particular about what she found. She found that there was an issue with cladding and it should be looked at. She found that there was an issue with the policy of stay put. She found that there was an issue with the refurbishment of these older homes. Those three ring very true to me now.
Yes.
And when I was overseas, when I saw the footage, and I came straight back to London, and I just thought, my God, has nothing been learned?
Right. One of the things that all the fire safety officers, firemen, firefighters that I've spoken to have said that they felt should have been learned after the Lakanal House tragedy was that sprinkler systems ought to have been installed in all these buildings as a matter of necessity. Was that another thing that you felt too?
Oh, I think so. In all of the buildings that I've inspected in other parts of the world and other disasters that I've looked into, where there have been sprinklers, it's made a huge difference to the outcome. There have been many other buildings go up in flames on the outside, but with sprinklers, there's been no one killed.
Right, so you're in this position where you investigated in 2009. You say you flew straight back to this country when you saw the Grenfell Tower ablaze. It's now become obviously one of the most well-known landmarks in the world. I mean, nobody in any country in the world wouldn't know what they're looking at there. Now you're here. What are you trying to do? What can you do? What is the purpose of your being here?
Oh, well, the purpose of me being here, and you're probably aware, I'm here voluntarily.
Yes.
And the purpose is to help the United Kingdom not lose its direction this time, because the lessons are learned, or they were learned with Lakanal. There'll be other things learned here, but basically they were learned. The politics in the country are toxic, and so very easily the issue can become politicised. But the fact of the matter is the engineering behind this is very straightforward. And the system's already investigated something like this before, and it can't happen again. And so I've been here talking to anybody who listened to me saying this isn't about the cladding. Yes, the cladding's an important part of it, but it's something more, in my view, something more sinister, because how can the system have failed the citizens of the United Kingdom so badly? And the decision that I've heard this morning to actually set up a group of experts and let them be experts, and please don't let them be the same civil servants who've managed to push this issue away. I welcome that.
But when you say something sinister, something that hasn't been revealed, something that's kind of bubbling beneath, and you say it's not just as simple as they didn't realise that the cladding was flammable, or it's not just as simple as they forgot to put in sprinkler systems. And are you also saying it's not as simple as they didn't fancy paying for it? Because that's another massive element, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's about the money. I've gone and inspected buildings again since I've flown in for residents who've asked me to come and have a look. I can see a lot of money's been spent. So whether it's Conservative or Labor, and I don't understand your politics, it's a complete mystery to me, but whoever's in power...
No, I don't think anyone does, even the practitioners at the moment. No one understands it. So don't ask me to explain it to you, please don't.
Every day it's even more and more mysterious.
Yeah. So what are you implying? What are you saying, Professor, that you think has happened?
I think the United Kingdom lost its way. It's got... The engineering is well known. It's not even very hard. It's just a matter of spending your money intelligently, and it's a matter of checking that you've got what you paid for. And in the buildings that I've inspected, and I've inspected many now, the money's been spent. It's just it hasn't been spent in a way that ends up making the buildings safe.
All right, what's it been spent on then? If it hasn't been spent on safety, what has it been spent on?
Well, it's been spent on safety systems that have been done badly. So, for example, when I go into the actual homes of the people who are living there, and my view is these are villages, these towers with 120 occupancies inside, they're equivalent to a little village in the countryside. in scale.
I think one of the things we found out after the Grenfell Tower tragedy actually is how many people in the tower were in other people's flats.
Yeah.
You know, people were having dinner with other people. You heard David Lammy talking about a Ramadan feast with 40 people in it. We heard one father saying, I think on the day or the day after, my daughter was on the 13th floor and I was on the 9th. I mean, definitely one of the things people don't seem to understand is what you've just said, the social interaction, the connections, the people moving from flat to flat because they're in love or because they're babysitting or because it's someone's friend or someone's mother, all of that stuff.
It's until you're inside these apartment blocks, as I've been, I wouldn't have guessed it's like an intimacy between this community, and hence the sort of solidarity that you see amongst these communities now that they're disrupted. And I heard the discussion earlier this morning, community saying, come on neighbours, come out, let them fix. I'd expect to see that in a village, and here it is inside these flats. So what I see is fire safety works which have been done, so taxpayers have paid for it, but they're done badly. Inspections have been done, but why does it take me as a foreigner to fly in and have a look and say, who inspected this? How can you pass this?
But are you implying that people have been paid off, or that contracts have been given to people who have done shoddy work and people have purposely overlooked it? Or are you implying that nobody realised what it was they were looking for and so they would pass it in good faith, but actually they were inadequate to judge? Or what are you thinking has gone on?
Well, I think it's laziness. So people just don't bother going and checking properly. I think it's stupidity.
Right.
And I know it's a strong word to say stupidity. I don't think that the sort of intelligence that's needed to spend the taxpayers' money in these buildings has been used. So what you have is say the cladding, it doesn't take much more money or any at all to have the better cladding. So where was the intelligence in the decision making? And that's why...
So are you saying that the people making these very important life-saving or life-losing decisions were incompetent? They weren't sufficiently well-versed in whatever it was they should have been. And the experts they would have consulted were also incompetent?
Generally, yes. But there were people in the UK who knew that this wasn't the case.
Right.
And in Lakanal House, I mean, why is it that I think it's the all-party group from the House of Lords sends an email around the world asking for help with Lakanal House? That's what I responded to, for free, just because I could see it was so serious. So to me, that shows something really wrong inside the decision-making engineering within that what was probably considered a lowly task of worrying about tower blocks and fire safety. And it shouldn't be that way because the engineering's simple and the experts are available. And I notice they're all falling out of the sky now saying, yes, we know what the problem was. You know, we're all very clever now. Where were they when Lakanal happened?
When you say the UK's lost its way, do you mean that the priority... the list of priorities had been completely muddled?
Yeah.
Because you would think, you're building a tower block for people to live in, you're maintaining this tower block, it's under council ownership. What is the most important thing? The absolute top priority.
Safety.
The most important thing is not whether it looks pretty, is it?
No.
Is it safe? Is anyone going to be hurt in this? Are there going to be lives lost? How can that not be at the top of the list?
I completely agree. So for me, as I say, I see these buildings as villages. And the number one priority for all of us, no matter where you're from, no matter how you got here, it's your home, to be safe in your home. And that got lost. And that's why I came back.
Okay, I mean, I've got to go to the travel, unfortunately, but are you being unduly delicate in not saying, it got lost because of what? You're not saying why or how or anything like that.
I think the civil service built empires based on decisions that they made years ago about things like no sprinklers. I think that somewhere inside the civil service they made decisions about not auditing the works that are done in the tower blocks when they should have audited them, and as a result all these people have died, and it's just a disgrace. And the civil service, if I was the Prime Minister of this country or a former Prime Minister with those civil servants, I'd be marching them right out the door, because experts here in the UK for years have been complaining, not just internally, but overseas to people like myself. I investigate disasters. Why should I have to come here to make this call? It's just a disgrace. And if I was the Prime Minister, I'd have them lined up in my office now and be packing their bags.
Thank you very much indeed for coming in. It's absolutely fascinating to talk to you, and also Pretty horrifying, I might say. Professor Arnold Dix, they're an independent disaster investigator who came voluntarily the moment that he heard what had gone wrong. And you heard what he said. If he was the Prime Minister, he'd have those civil servants responsible lined up in front of his office and get them to pack their bags and get out. Your response to that, 0207 224 2000. We'll be straight back with you after the travel news.